In this episode, Golden and I discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 4. Full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. Full power. The Omega Beam.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 166. I'm your host, Oren Merton. Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery is now streaming in its entirety on Paramount Plus in the USA, and I think Science in Canada and Netflix around the world. So that means it's time for us to dig into it. We start out spoiler-free and then get into spoilers, so here we go. I am here with Golden to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 4. So what did you think?
The very first season, I was impressed. The second season, still impressed. This is now season 4.
Yeah.
And they're still finding ways to impress. Deep, meaningful relationships. Characters that decide, hey, look, I'm really supposed to be here in the story, but that's not really what's fitting my character anymore, so I need to do this. And I really like how it's not, okay, well, we're on this ship, so it has to be centered around this ship, and every character that was there has to stay on the ship.
Right,
But those characters find themselves in different situations. The way in which they grow leads them down other paths.
It does. I really like that about this season. I was going to add to what you said that about being impressed from the beginning and feeling like they're always growing. I liked season 1. It was a little disjointed, but still I thought told a good story. Season 2, I thought, was more cohesive through the whole, and I really liked the story it told. I love the new characters it introduced. When they flipped into the future for season 3, I thought that's when it really, in my opinion, took off. I loved season 3, and I think season 4, like you said, it just continues in the direction, and it's just rising. The characters are nuanced. They're not just overly broad caricatures. The actors are great. And I think in true Star Trek fashion, they are not warriors. And we love Star Wars.
We still have some of our warriors. I mean, if you think about when they did originally come into the future, you had a warrior.
Oh, I mean, it's not that they don't fight. It's just that in season 1, Star Wars...
Someone was needed for The Mandalorian or something.
Yeah.
Or Book of Boba Fett, so...
Right. But, yeah, what I was going to say is, you look at Star Wars, and it tends to be much more of a, Star War. It tends to be much more about conflict itself. And Star Trek was always a more aspirational, little bit more philosophical. And, I mean, there was action in almost all of those episodes.
Yes.
But it was never about the action. The action was a means to an end, and that end was an understanding, was exploration, was something like that. And then first season of Discovery was basically about war. A lot of people complained that this isn't their Star Trek, that this is basically the Star Warsification of Star Trek. And I love how in every subsequent season, like you said, it's getting better and better and better. And it's also getting more and more and more classic Star Trek-like.
I mean, the relationship between Book and her. I mean, you clearly have two people that love and respect one another.
Right.
But Book has to make his decisions. And he has to live with his decision.
So we're keeping it vague for the spoiler-free section, but we'll get into spoilers soon.
Which means that she has to live with his decisions.
Right. That he and it's played that he understands that he knows he is making life harder on the one he loves, and that weighs on him.
And no matter what he does, that's, it's still a consideration, but in the end, he still has to make his decisions.
Right.
You had this level of not necessarily trust between the Federation and this crew at first.
Right.
And how they've built that trust back up.
Yeah.
And what they've done. But again, I mean, the characters are very rich.
They are.
There isn't one character that if you actually went back and specifically said, okay, I'm going to watch for this one character, I'm sure that you'd find out things about that character that you missed the first time watching it because you're just paying attention to that one character.
Yeah, yeah, it is a very rich show. So to end the spoiler-free section, if you loved any of the other seasons, then you will certainly love this one. If you're just looking for good Trek, Paramount
If you're looking
Plus,
for good sci-fi.
yeah, if you're looking for good science fiction, if you're looking for good Trek, Paramount Plus has really been shooting on all thrusters when it comes to their Trek shows. And Star Trek Discovery is no exception. You will enjoy this. And of course, we've said this every episode we've talked about Discovery, so I don't feel like we need to go into details, but the effects are wonderful. The music is good. The polish, the direction, all of the sort of visuals and all of that. It's all handled very well. The pacing is really good. So, very, very good show. And shall we get into spoilers?
Sure.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Speaking of it being about exploration, it starts out with you thinking, oh, there's a big bad, because there's this giant anomaly that is clearly created, the DMA, that is clearly created by an intelligent life form.
Well, they don't know that at first.
Correct. You're right. They figure out that it is not a natural phenomenon, that it is being directed and it is being created by some intelligent force, and it is literally destroying planets. It destroys Book's planet, and among others.
And he is devastated.
Yeah, completely and totally devastated. His whole family is gone, everything. And so you start out thinking that...
The family that he was just reconnecting with.
Exactly. And so you start this series out thinking there's a big bad. And yet, as the season goes on, it very, very naturally becomes a series about first contact, about misunderstanding.
Yeah, well, if you think about kind of the big bad that destroyed all the lithium and all the ships and everything at that one point was, again, a misunderstanding.
Right.
So even last season, the basis that we tend to go to, there has to be a big bad, there has to be evil, when sometimes not understanding who someone is or why they're doing something or helping them to understand is what is actually bad.
Yeah, and even the sort of junior bad who creates a lot of problems for everyone else and himself by trying to go his own way and destroy the DMA's energy source so he can harness.
He wants the DMA energy source because he thinks that can therefore get him
to this other universe.
To reunite him with someone that I think he feels like he let down.
Right.
That he couldn't be there for that other person.
Right. And even as the junior big bad, he's a jerk, but he's not that bad. I mean, he doesn't kill anyone.
He kind of inadvertently, definitely kind of does, but...
I must have forgotten.
Maybe not directly, but I think that he did cause... I don't know. Well, he would have. He definitely would have. He hadn't yet.
He would have, yeah. He finds his way onto the Enterprise, or not the Enterprise, excuse me, Discovery, and he has to get himself off. He's caught, but he doesn't kill the person. He takes her prisoner because
of course, because it's better to have a hostage.
Right, and he doesn't want a body count. He's trying to prove to himself as much as to anyone else that he's not the villain. And I think if he was wantonly killing anyone in his way, that makes it harder for him to tell that story.
But he's not going to listen to reason because he is
unreasonable.
He is very blinded, and there's with villains, there's always they're too far gone. There's no level of redemption.
Right.
And in the end, there's a level of redemption for him.
There is.
It's almost a little too late, but but it's there.
It is there. And I think as far as things Trek does well, this is another moment where they have a contact with an unknown alien species. And of course, the one everybody remembers is from Next Generation, the episode where Picard and Darmok and they can only talk via metaphor, or I think it was metaphor. So they never can say a sentence clear to each other. He always has to talk Darmok and Jalad at Tenengra. So he's invoking the feeling of these people being in this place. And so they only talked that way to each other. It was this very bizarre thing where they only talked in simile. But it is one of the most beloved episodes because it showed a first contact that was totally different than every other sci-fi show. And I think that Star Trek Discovery, with its bigger budget and everything else, more special effects, I thought they also did a really good job of creating a communication with a foreign species that wasn't simply, oh, I speak English.
You couldn't use the universal translator.
Right. It's like, I speak English, you speak something else. I guess we need a translator. Instead, it was, we need to figure out how this entirely different species communicates, and we have to find a way to meet. And I thought they did that.
And we have to do that very, very
right,
quickly.
we have to do that. And the clock is ticking because they've got...
That in itself ends up leading to some people making decisions that are rash because they think that if they don't do it right now, that the Earth is going to be gone. And
right.
What's the other planet?
Navarre.
Navarre is going to also be gone.
Yeah, and again, talking about how this was a great season, I think they did such a good job of keeping the tension up from episode to episode. Even after we knew there really was no big bad, they still kept the tension up because there was a ticking clock, even if there was no big bad.
Yeah, because the DMA was still going to run its course, and the DMA was still going to destroy planets and people.
Right. And speaking of life forms,
and even then, you don't have enough time to evacuate everyone.
Exactly.
You don't have the resources.
And speaking of life forms that you haven't seen before, I like how they turned what was originally the sphere of intelligence and weirdness in season 2, they turned it into an AI, not just an AI, but now it is an independent life form that has itself been admitted as a member into the Federation.
Well, there's an entire episode that explores whether or not this AI can be considered as a life form.
Right, because things in the ship start getting a little wonky because it's making decisions emotionally.
Because there is basically a law in the Federation that you can't have an AI running the ship.
Right.
But if it's an actual life form...
Right, then you can.
Then you can.
Absolutely.
And is the AI going to make decisions that are just cut and dry, or is it going to make decisions like a life form would?
Right. So, it dealt with a lot of issues that, like you had said when talking about how great the relationships are, it really focuses on the emotional impact of people's choices. Everybody in this show has efficacy. Everyone has agency. Everybody is given a moment where not just their presence, but their decision moves the plot. Even if they're not the star, there's an episode or two where any character, either on an away mission or what have you, makes a decision that moves the plot. And I think that is the sign of a good show, where they really give every character something to do besides just say, hailing frequencies open, Captain.
Yeah.
This is a really, really good season of a really good show, and I am excited about season 5.
And as you said, for part of it is that a lot of times we do skip the intro, but sometimes you want to watch it because subtle things do change.
Right. Yeah, that is a good point. That I got an itchy trigger finger when it comes to the skip button, but Discovery sometimes, it has this kind of outline shape type of animated intro, which is very, very pretty and very well done. But so many of these intros, once you've seen them, and you don't need to keep watching every single episode.
Well,
but
with the exception of Peacemaker.
Well, Peacemaker was its own amazingness that you just cannot get enough of. But in Discovery, most of those shapes that are made and outlines and things are the same. But I think every single episode, they do change a couple here and there that represent some of what's going on in the episode that you're about to watch. And I think that's really cool and really well done. And that is a way to keep people like me with the itchy trigger finger from at least thinking about it before we hit skip. So, good on them for making it interesting. Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/166. If you like this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. Full stop.